Welcome to our YouTube summary of the book Talk Like TED by Carmine Gallo. In this video, we'll explore the key takeaways and strategies outlined in the book to help you master the art of public speaking. So, let's dive into the summary of this incredible book. But before we dive into the content, I kindly request a moment of your time to appreciate this video by liking it, subscribing to the channel, and ringing that notification bell. Your support means a lot to me. Thank you so much. Have you ever watched a TED Talk and wondered how those speakers captivate their audience with such ease? Well, in Talk Like TED, Carmine Gallo breaks down the secrets behind some of the most successful TED Talks and provides valuable insights on how you can apply those techniques to your own presentations. Gallo emphasizes the importance of crafting a compelling narrative that resonates with your audience. By using stories, anecdotes, and personal experiences, presenters can create an emotional connection that keeps listeners engaged from start to finish. Remember, it's not just about delivering information. It's about creating an experience that makes your message unforgettable. Gallo also highlights the significance of nonverbal communication, emphasizing the impact of body language, gestures, and vocal variety in delivering a memorable speech. Your body language speaks volumes, so make sure to practice good posture, eye contact, and expressive gestures to enhance your message. Talk Like TED by Carmine Gallo provides insights from the world's top TED speakers, highlighting the qualities that make a great talk memorable and engaging. This book provides practical tips to help anyone deliver a compelling talk that captivates and inspires their audience. In Talk Like TED, you'll learn about presentation strategies used by the world's most influential public speakers. Author Carmine Gallo analyzed more than 500 TED Talks to identify common features that make these talks so influential and appealing. Talk Like TED by Carmine Gallo is a captivating guide that reveals the secrets behind powerful and persuasive public speaking. Here's why this book is definitely worth your time. Packed with inspiring examples from the most popular TED Talks, it teaches readers how to deliver talks that entertain, inform, and inspire. By breaking down the techniques used by exceptional speakers, it provides practical tips on how to create memorable speeches with impact. The book's emphasis on storytelling and emotional connection ensures that readers won't find it dull, as it keeps them engaged and eager to learn. Here is a sentence showcasing the greatness of a quote of this book. "There is nothing more inspiring than a bold idea delivered by a great speaker." Carmine Gallo. Talk Like TED has analyzed over 500 of the most popular TED Talks to help you integrate the three most common features of them, novelty, emotions, and being memorable, into your own presentations and make you a better speaker. Carmine Gallo is a communications coach and speaker who left the world of TV news, where he was a journalist and anchor, in 2009 to focus on speaking, consulting, and writing books. His most popular books are about Apple's late CEO Steve Jobs, and analyze his way of communicating and presenting. Talk Like TED is his newest book, where he breaks down what makes the most popular TED Talk so great. You can make your presentation memorable by sharing extreme moments and novel statistics. Let's get cracking into them. Lesson 1. Persuasive presentations have logos, ethos, and pathos. After learning a lot about what influences and persuades people yesterday, today we're taking it to the next level. Gallo says that communicating in a persuasive way can be traced back all the way to Aristotle. Back in ancient Greece, he established three modes of persuasion: ethos, logos, and pathos. Ethos is about who the speaker is and how much of a credible source he or she is to talk about the topic. For example, a college professor for health psychology has a much easier time talking about willpower than a high school student. You'd simply trust the professor more because of their authority. But you can also just demonstrate that you have mastered the topic of your TED Talk by showing statistics, or benefit from being introduced by another authority in your field. Logos is how convincing you can make your argument by backing it up with data. Statistics, facts, research findings, credible sources, all of these will help you make your point and further enhance your ethos as well. Pathos is the last but most important of the three. It is about establishing an emotional connection between you and your audience. Sympathy and empathy are both words, which have been derived from the word pathos, and they are two great places to start. But the strongest emotions always come from stories, which is why storytelling should be a substantial part of all of your presentations. Whether you share personal stories, stories from friends, or how a big brand did something really cool for their customers, keep bringing those metaphors. Gallo says the perfect talk consists of 65% pathos, 25% logos, and 10% ethos. Lesson 2. Sharing extreme moments and novel statistics will make your presentation memorable. People have bad memory these days, so it's your job to make your talk unforgettable and help them remember it. Sharing extreme moments in your story can help achieve that. For example, Scott Dinsmore told a story about an open water swim where he thought a child was drowning, only to find out that the kid was disabled and had still mastered the challenge. Similarly, Bill Gates unleashing a bunch of potentially deadly mosquitoes stuck in people's heads for quite some time. Another factor that helps us remember things is when the information is new. But it doesn't have to be actually new information. It's enough if you present information in a new light. For example, it's often hard to grasp how fast things really grow when we talk about exponential growth, but a really enlightening way of explaining it is trying to fold a piece of paper to reach the moon. Joe Smith used the same concept to teach people how to use less paper towels by showing the audience how we could save 500 million pounds of paper each year if everyone just used one paper towel less per day. So think about some cool and novel stories and statistics to spice up your presentation, and your audience will remember it for a long time. Lesson 3. Your presentation should be 18 minutes long and cover no more than 3 topics. We remember information not in single units, but in chunks, which is why 241222014 is much tougher to remember than December 24, 2014. Research has been updated from estimating we can remember up to 7 things at once to rather 3 chunks. That's why your presentation should build its core message around 3 topics or distinct points, which help you drive home the overall point. Structure it from the top and then go deeper to see which stories and facts you can best use to convince the audience of what you have to say. TED Talks also lie right in the middle of the ideal presentation length of 15 to 20 minutes with an 18-minute rule, established by the creators to get people to really condense their message and keep listeners engaged. If you've even watched so much as a single TED Talk, you probably know how addictive they are. Talk Like TED not only breaks down why, but also gives you plenty of great examples and more talks to watch. The whole idea of the 3 modes of persuasion was completely new to me, and while I knew about the 18-minute rule of TED Talks, I had no idea why. Those are the individuals who truly deserve to immerse themselves in this extraordinary book. Who should read Talk Like TED? Anyone interested in founding a startup. Anyone interested in giving effective, memorable presentations. Anyone who wants to learn how to sell themselves better. The 13-year-old who's about to give her first presentation to her class in high school. The 39-year-old executive who has to present to upper management on a regular basis, and anyone who loves TED Talks. Furthermore, Talk Like TED encourages presenters to inject passion, authenticity, and enthusiasm into their delivery to inspire and influence their audience. If you have a great idea, how do you share it with the world? Every day we are bombarded with information, so for any one idea to really shine, it needs to be pushed hard by the person who owns it. In other words, you have to sell it. In Talk Like TED, author Carmine Gallo reveals the presentation secrets of some of the world's most influential public speakers. Having analyzed over 500 popular talks presented at TED, technology, entertainment, design conferences, Gallo identifies the 3 common features that, he argues, distinguish those talks from the rest. In all of the talks, the content of the presentations was novel. The speakers managed to connect emotionally to their audience, and the content was presented in a way that made it easy to remember. You'll learn how to connect emotionally with an audience, make your presentations more memorable, and weave stories into your talk. Also, you'll find out why passion is essential to making your talk persuasive, and why you should make sure your subject stimulates more than one of our 5 senses. Finally, you'll learn a number of bread-and-butter tips on how to structure your presentation to make it stick in your audience's memories. In the following insights, you'll also discover how unleashing a swarm of mosquitoes helped a TED Talk go viral, what the American dream and the country of Denmark have in common, and how new information stimulates the brain into remembering it. 1. TED Talks can help you to improve in an important area of life, your presentation skills. In 1915, Dale Carnegie wrote the world's first self-help book, The Art of Public Speaking. In this work, Carnegie explained how people could get their point across in the most memorable and engaging way. This suggests that even 100 years ago, people had to find a way to distinguish themselves from the crowd to succeed. And if this were true a century ago, it is especially so today. In our globalized world, competition is tough. To make your idea stand out, you have to learn how to sell yourself. The author Daniel Pink is well aware of this, claiming in his book To Sell is Human that today we're all in sales, whether or not we want to be. But where can you learn how to best sell yourself? What's the contemporary world's equivalent of the art of public speaking? The TED Talk. TED, Technology, Entertainment, Design, is a popular conference for leading thinkers and inventors to present their ideas. Each presentation, all of them freely available to watch online, is a model example of effective selling skills. Started in 1984 as a one-off event, TED's popularity grew rapidly. Today, TED has a global presence. In fact, every single day, 5 TEDx events, an international franchise of the original event, take place in more than 130 countries. Because TED Talks feature some of the brightest and most successful people in the world, they're a valuable resource for anyone wanting to become a better public speaker. With that in mind, the author analyzed over 500 TED Talks and was able to identify many of their common features. But what are these commonalities? What are the skills that TED presenters use to get their message across? The upcoming insights present the most important tools used by the best salespeople from all over the world. 2. Passion is the foundation of a persuasive and successful presentation. If you have a great idea, how do you share it with the world? Every day we are bombarded with information, so for any one idea to really shine, it needs to be pushed hard by the person who owns it. In other words, you have to sell it. In Talk Like TED, author Carmine Gallo reveals the presentation secrets of some of the world's most influential public speakers. Having analyzed over 500 popular talks presented at TED, Technology, Entertainment, Design conferences, Gallo identifies the 3 common features that, he argues, distinguish those talks from the rest. In all of the talks, the content of the presentations was novel. The speakers managed to connect emotionally to their audience, and the content was presented in a way that made it easy to remember. You'll learn how to connect emotionally with an audience, make your presentations more memorable, and weave stories into your talk. Also, you'll find out why passion is essential to making your talk persuasive, and why you should make sure your subject stimulates more than one of our 5 senses. Finally, you'll learn a number of bread-and-butter tips on how to structure your presentation to make it stick in your audience's memories. In the following insights, you'll also discover how unleashing a swarm of mosquitoes helped a TED Talk go viral, what the American dream and the country of Denmark have in common, and how new information stimulates the brain into remembering it. 3. Storytelling helps you to connect emotionally with your audience. Most people would agree that Steve Jobs was one of the world's best public speakers. But what made his presentations so persuasive? His talks were always brimming with pathos, as all successful, persuasive presentations are. For an emotional connection happens only when a speaker's voice, gestures, and body language are in sync. Have you ever listened to a talk where the speaker spoke so slowly that you found yourself drifting off to sleep? Yet speaking faster is not necessarily the solution. The rate at which a speaker should talk depends on what you, the listener, are doing at the time. 5. To make your presentation surprising and unforgettable, give your audience new information. Think back to the last time you were genuinely surprised. This "wow, really?" moment probably caused you to pay even closer attention to the source of this new information, whether it was a book, a TV program, or a lecture. If you want to capture the attention and imagination of your audience, you should weave novel and surprising information into your presentation. 6. Make your presentation memorable by sharing an extreme moment or extraordinary statistic. What were you doing on September 11th, 2001? What about September 11th, 2002? Without a doubt, your memory of the former date will be far more vivid. Extreme moments are unforgettable, and if such a moment happens during your presentation, chances are your audience will remember your talk and spread the word to boot. 7. Adding humor to your speech makes your audience see you in a more positive light. Think back to the last presentation you truly enjoyed. Was it at all funny? Humor has a positive effect on our relations with others. Indeed, studies show that we attribute such desirable and positive traits as friendliness, intelligence, and emotional stability to people who have a good sense of humor. Presentations should cover no more than 3 aspects in 15 to 20 minutes. Ever noticed that after sitting through a long talk you feel exhausted and physically depleted? Your audience may face the same problem. The solution: keep your presentation short. This makes it far easier for audiences to remember the content. 9. Stimulating all of the senses during a presentation helps your audience to remember your ideas. Think about the last time you were sunbathing. How did your skin feel? What did you smell? What did your surroundings look and sound like? How well can you remember all the details? We remember things more vividly when we experience them with all of our senses. Being a strong public speaker is one of the most powerful talents you can possess. Effective speakers can captivate their audience with new ideas and revolutionary concepts, inspire people to try new things, and even influence people's opinions. According to communications coach Carmine Gallo, the key to becoming a good public speaker is applying 9 key principles, including speaking with passion, incorporating a shocking moment, and presenting something new to your audience. Gallo formulated these principles after watching hundreds of successful TED Talks. In Talk Like TED, learn how long your speeches and presentations should be, how to use humor to make your audience like you, and how one TED speaker successfully used a real human brain as a prop. How can you become a strong public speaker? According to communications coach Carmine Gallo, the key lies in learning to talk like TED. In other words, applying 9 principles of effective public speaking that frequently feature in successful TED Talks. The first 6 principles address the content that you should include in your speech or presentation. The final 3 address the logistics of preparing and delivering an effective talk. Principle number 1. Pick a topic you're passionate about. Make sure that the subject you're going to talk about is something you feel enthusiastic about. For example, if you're asked to give a presentation about one sale you've made this month, discuss the sale that excites you the most. Choosing a topic you're passionate about is important for 3 reasons. You'll be so excited about getting to share your passion with the world that you won't feel nervous about your talk. When you're passionate about something, you're likely to speak about the subject energetically. You'll be much more interesting to watch than a lackluster speaker, meaning people are much more likely to actually pay attention to you. Studies have shown that feelings are contagious. Therefore, if you exhibit deep passion when speaking about your chosen subject, your audience will emulate that passion and listen intently to what you're saying. Sometimes you may be forced to speak on a topic that you don't feel passionate about. For instance, if your boss asks you to give a presentation on a prescribed subject. In such situations, don't try to fake passion. People are good at discerning whether passion is genuine or not, and when they realize you're faking, they'll distrust what you're saying. Instead, frame the topic in a way that does excite you and appeal to your passions. For example, if your passion is bringing added efficiency to your workplace, and you're asked to give a presentation on a piece of dull accounting software that you don't really care about, focus your presentation on how efficient the software is. Principle number 2. Tell your audience stories. Incorporate at least one of the following 3 types of stories into every speech or presentation you give. A story about your own life, for example, a challenging experience you overcame. A story about someone else, for instance, an anecdote about a famous person. A story about a product or brand, either a product or brand you've created yourself, for instance, telling the origin story of a new product you're launching. Or one created by someone else, for example, trying to convince your colleagues to adopt a new sales strategy by telling the story of how well it's worked for another brand. Including stories in your speeches and presentations is important for a number of reasons. Storytelling is much more gripping than many other methods of sharing information. For example, listing facts and figures. People are more likely to fully understand a concept if you tell them a story about how it works in the real world. For instance, imagine you're giving a presentation about a complicated new sales process. Your colleagues are more likely to understand the process if you tell them a story about how it's worked for you, rather than just bombarding them with dry theory. Stories can serve as proof that the claims you're making are legitimate. For instance, if you're trying to convince investors that your product is already popular, telling real-life stories about happy customers provides evidence that your claim is true. Stories can influence your audience's thoughts and emotions. When people listen to a story, they experience identical brain function to the person telling the tale. This neurological connection allows speakers to plant certain ideas and emotions in their audience's minds. For example, if you want your audience to feel excited about a new product, tell a story that makes you feel excited about it. The audience's brains will automatically mimic your emotion. Make your story gripping. Make your story exciting enough to keep your audience listening by incorporating these 5 attributes into the narrative. Detail. Make the story so detail-rich that your listeners feel like they're experiencing it themselves and want to stick around to see how it ends. Unexpectedness. Make the story take a turn that the audience didn't anticipate. You'll shock people into paying attention to what you're saying. Mystery. Keep your story's outcome unknown for as long as possible. People crave the closure of knowing how a story will end and will keep listening until they get it. Heroes and villains. Give your audience some characters to root for and others to dislike. They'll become engrossed in your story as they wait for the satisfaction of the hero triumphing and the villain getting their comeuppance. Adversity. Make sure that the main character of your story overcomes adversity at some point in the narrative. Your audience will be inspired by this battle against misfortune, and will keep listening to find out whether the main character prevails. Principle number 3, present something new. New content can take 2 possible forms. Information that was previously completely unknown to your audience, for instance, a little-known fact about your area of expertise. An innovative new solution to an old and well-known problem. Maybe even a fix for an issue that previously seemed unsolvable. Presenting something new to your audience capitalizes on the human brain's love of learning new things. According to neuroscientists, when we learn something new, the brain releases restricted term, a hormone that makes us feel good. Being a strong public speaker is one of the most powerful talents you can possess. Effective speakers can captivate their audience with new ideas and concepts, inspire people to try new things, and even influence people's opinions. On the other hand, failing to speak persuasively and confidently can limit your capacity for success in the working world. For example, you won't convince people to buy your product or service if your sales pitch is lackluster. Likewise, if all of your presentations are tedious and unconvincing, you'll struggle to impress your colleagues and superiors. Here are the chapters in this remarkable book, each holding valuable insights and captivating narratives that promise to engage and enlighten readers. Chapter 1. Pick a topic you're passionate about. The first principle of becoming an excellent public speaker is picking a topic that you're passionate about. For example, if you're asked to give a presentation to your colleagues about one successful sale you've made this month, discuss the sale that excites you the most. Why is passion so important? Choosing a topic that you're passionate about is important for a number of reasons. First, if you deeply care about the subject you're about to talk about, you're less likely to feel nervous about your presentation. You'll be so excited about getting to share your passion with the world that the idea of your speech going wrong won't even cross your mind. Second, when you're passionate about your topic, you're likely to speak enthusiastically. You'll therefore be more interesting to watch than a bored and lackluster speaker. People are more likely to actually pay attention to you and what you're saying, and your message is more likely to sink in. Finally, studies have shown that feelings are contagious. They spread from person to person. Therefore, if you speak with passion, your audience will feel your excitement. Chapter 2. Tell your audience stories. The second principle of becoming an effective public speaker is telling your audience stories. Incorporate at least one of the following 3 types of stories into your presentations. Type number 1. A story from your own life. For example, in a speech about your career, you could tell a story about the biggest challenge you've overcome so far. In a presentation about an amazing sale you recently made, you could tell the story of how you secured the deal. Type number 2. A story about someone else. This someone else could be someone you know personally, a famous person, or a historical figure. Anyone who's had an experience that relates to the topic you're discussing. For example, when giving a presentation to your colleagues about a new management style you've read about, you could tell the story of the person who created the management style and how it worked for them. Type number 3. A story about a product or brand. In some situations, this may involve telling a story about a product or brand that you've created. For example, if you're making a speech to launch your new product, you could tell your audience the story of how you came up with the product's design. Chapter 3. Present something new. The next principle of becoming an effective public speaker is using your talk to present something new. This new content can take two possible forms. 1. Information that was previously completely unknown to your audience. For instance, a little-known fact about your area of specialty. Make this information as niche and unexpected as possible to maximize the chances that your audience hasn't heard it before. For example, if your area of expertise is space, present new information based on cutting-edge research that the general public probably isn't aware of yet. 2. An innovative new solution to an old and well-known problem, possibly even a fix for an issue that previously seemed unsolvable. For example, when Albanian politician Edi Rama gave a TED Talk in 2012, he presented a novel and unorthodox solution to the long-standing issue of crime in Albanian cities, painting previously dull and gray Soviet-era buildings in bright colors. Not only was Rama's TED Talk a success, but his approach to tackling crime was too. As the buildings in the Albanian city of Tirana became brighter, crime rates began to fall. Chapter 4. Incorporate a shocking moment. The fourth principle of effective public speaking is incorporating a shocking moment into your speech or presentation. A shocking moment is an event that your audience doesn't anticipate, but which deeply surprises, impresses, or moves them. Including a shocking moment in your presentations will benefit you in 3 ways. First, the unexpectedness of the moment will grab your audience's attention. They'll become totally focused on what you're saying and doing, and are therefore more likely to absorb your ideas. Second, shocking moments get people talking. Your audience will rush to tell everyone they know about the surprising thing they just heard or witnessed. In the process, they'll spread information about your talk and the ideas you communicated. Finally, shocking moments are memorable. They frequently stick in an audience's mind after your presentation. The more your audience thinks about the shocking moment, the more they contemplate the idea you were trying to get across, and the more likely they are to act on that idea. Chapter 5. Use humor. The fifth principle of effective public speaking is using humor. At some point in your presentation, try to make your audience laugh, or at least smile. Incorporating humor into public speaking is important because, according to research, it will increase your likability in various ways. Humor makes a good first impression on strangers, particularly in group settings. Therefore, using it is a simple way to gain favor from an unfamiliar audience. Making people smile or laugh puts them at ease. The more relaxed you make people feel, the more likely they are to like you. If people believe that you have a good sense of humor, they're more likely to associate other positive traits with you too, for example, friendliness, emotional stability, and consideration for others. These are all qualities that will make you even more well-liked. Ultimately, the more your audience likes you, the more likely they are to listen to and support what you have to say. What types of humor should you use? There are many different types of humor, from telling knock-knock jokes to making sarcastic comments. Chapter 6. Trigger multiple senses. The next principle of effective public speaking is presenting content that triggers multiple senses. For instance, give your audience something to look at, such as PowerPoint slides, as well as something to listen to, such as your voice. Triggering multiple senses is important when making a speech or presentation because it'll help your audience to remember what you've said. Research has shown that multisensory experiences are much more memorable than single-sense experiences. For instance, in one study, students were more likely to recall information from a lesson if that information had triggered 2 senses, sight and sound, rather than just one. Their brains created both visual and auditory models of the information, making it much easier to recall in the future. Which senses should you trigger? You should aim to trigger a combination of the following 3 senses in your speeches and presentations. The more the better. Hearing, sight, touch. Let's look at how to trigger each sense in detail. Hearing. Hearing is a sense that you need to trigger in every presentation you make. Chapter 7. Keep your talk brief. The seventh principle of effective public speaking, and the first that relates to the logistics of your presentation, is keeping things brief. Whenever possible, you should limit your presentations to 18 minutes, the length of a TED Talk. The importance of brevity. Keeping your talks and presentations brief is important for 3 reasons. 1. It prevents your audience from becoming too tired to listen to you. Research has demonstrated that the brain uses up a lot of glucose as it absorbs information, thus making listening to a speech or presentation incredibly tiring. If you talk for too long, you risk depleting your audience's glucose levels to the extent that they simply don't have the energy to keep listening. In contrast, if you only talk for a short time, your audience will hopefully not only have enough energy to take in your ideas, but extra energy left over that they can then use to share and act on your ideas. 2. It takes the pressure off your listeners. Studies have shown that the longer a speaker talks, the more anxious their audience becomes as they realize just how much information they're being expected to absorb. The next logistical principle of becoming an effective public speaker is planning and practicing. First, plan your presentation in enough detail for you to know exactly what you're going to say. Then, rehearse so many times that when the time comes for you to speak, the words flow easily. Make a plan. Effective planning involves working out exactly how you want your presentation to unfold, for example, the points you want to make and the supporting evidence you want to use. Your talk is much more likely to run smoothly if you have a clear idea of what you want to say, rather than having to make your points up as you go along. You could use a message map as a planning tool. A message map is a one-page summary of everything you want to include in your talk. Chapter 8. Be yourself. The final element of successful public speaking is being yourself. Let your true personality shine through as you speak. For example, if you're a naturally calm and measured speaker, don't go on stage and fake being exuberant. Likewise, if you're a naturally enthusiastic presenter, don't tone down this element of your personality because you feel you need to be serious in professional situations. Being yourself is important because, just as people can tell when you're faking passion, they can also tell when you're faking your personality and pretending to be someone you're not. When they realize that you're faking, they'll start to distrust you, and they'll be less willing to accept your ideas. Allow yourself to be emotionally vulnerable. Part of being yourself during a speech or presentation is allowing yourself to be emotionally vulnerable, giving yourself permission to express your true emotions as you speak. For example, if you're giving a presentation a product that you've created, don't be afraid to let your audience know that you've poured your heart and soul into the product and deeply care about its success. In conclusion, Talk Like TED by Carmine Gallo is a valuable resource for anyone looking to enhance their public speaking skills and make a lasting impact with their presentations. By incorporating storytelling, body language, and passion into your talks, you can effectively engage and inspire your audience. So go ahead, embrace these techniques, and start talking like a TED speaker today. You can find the link to acquire a copy of this incredible book in the description box. Thank you for watching our summary of Talk Like TED. Don't forget to hit the like and share buttons, subscribe for more content, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Until next time, keep speaking with passion and purpose. See you soon.